Good morning. It's time to get InTouch. InTouch is a public affairs show dedicated to improving the lives of Susquehanna Valley residents. I'm Freddi Hammer, News Director at Backyard Broadcasting. Lycoming County residents may be getting ready for Election Day. It's coming up November 3rd, so now may be the time to consider whether you'll vote in person or by mail. Make sure you're registered to vote or see if being a poll worker this year is right for you. And on the phone today with Director of Elections and Registration in Lycoming County, Forrest Lehman. Good morning, Forrest. We spoke last year, but it's good to have you on the phone this year again for InTouch.
Good morning. It's nice to be back. Thank you.
Well, I was wondering, and I think you just mentioned that this is a common question. What do you guys do when you're not dealing with elections as we are coming up on November and we just finished with June? How did that all go and what are you doing now?
Well, people see us on Election Day, obviously, but we are busy all year long. The Lycoming County has about 70,000 registered voters, 81 voting precincts, 400 to 500 poll workers, and several hundred pieces of voting equipment that we have to make sure is all ready for every election. And so that involves daily voter registration applications, people changing their names, addresses, parties, new people registering, people needing to be taken off the rolls. We're always working with the equipment during the year, making sure it's working, it's tested, it's ready to go. We're designing and programming the ballot that everybody will see. And then we are recruiting and training poll workers, the people who are out there at the precinct who are running the show and helping everybody through the process. It's a lot of work all year long.
Well, let me ask you just about the current climate of elections. I mean, definitely a lot of people have questions. We're way ahead of the deadline for registering to vote in Pennsylvania because that's coming up in October. But for now, this is when people can take a look leisurely and say, am I registered? Do I need any information to be put forth here? Is that what people should be doing right now?
I certainly hope so. The more people who contact us now with any questions that they have are fewer calls we will be taking, I hope, during the really busy times of September and October. It is a good time for people to check, make sure they're registered if they have any doubt. If they want to apply for an absentee or a mail-in ballot for any reason, now's a fine time to do that. And all that goes to the fact that elections are intended, they need to be open and transparent, and so we want people to feel free to ask us questions, call us. We're happy to talk about any parts of the election process people have questions about. We can obviously address any questions they have about their own voter registration record as well.
My question really is when it comes to the political climate at this time, both sides sometimes making it a little bit more confusing for others. I'm wondering about the validity of mail-in voting and maybe people saying it's not valid, it's not a good way to vote. But what is the background thought on maybe saying that this isn't a safe way to vote? It seems like a safe way to me.
Right. I want to stress up front, my office is not partisan. We're a government office. Our job is to run the election and run the process. So we follow the state election code and all court rulings. So we don't take sides on issues that kind of divide down political lines. Mm-hmm. What I can say and what I'm confident in saying is that right now, voting by absentee ballot or mail-in ballot, it's a lawful product. Voters have that option. If somebody cannot appear at a polling place in person for reasons relating to work, school, or medical, they would apply for an absentee ballot. Otherwise, they would want to apply for a mail-in ballot if that's their preference. But there are mail-in voting options and also, the in-person voting option that people have available to them, and they can make that decision. They have until the Tuesday before the election, which I think is the 27th. That's the last day to apply for an absentee or a mail-in ballot. And the close of registration you referred to earlier is Monday, October 19th. That's the last day to register to vote before the election.
All right.
That's 15 days before.
Do you expect a lot of mail-in and absentee ballots due to the COVID-19 climate this year?
We saw many of them in the primary. Mm-hmm. For people to understand the context, in the primary in 2016, we had about 900 absentee ballots back when that was all we had.
Okay.
We didn't have mail-in ballots as a product. And in the primary this year, we had over 10,000.
Oh, my gosh.
So we saw a tenfold increase. And in our county, we had, I want to say it was about 7,500 ballots returned, which represented about almost a third of the 25,000 votes cast. And statewide, actually, the total was closer to 50% of the votes cast were cast by one of the mail-in ballot products.
How many more people do you need to manage that number of votes that come in like that?
A lot. Counties all over the state have been under unbelievable pressure due to the new kind of paradigm we're looking at with a lot of voting by mail. They have had to look at larger spaces. They've had to look at more full-time and part-time staff, more equipment. The part of it was the changeover to paper-based voting systems, but then in addition to that, the greater role that voting by mail is playing in the state, that has all created a lot of new challenges for counties to solve at every step of the process.
So you're looking for poll workers. This also is a good time of year to sort of think maybe that's something I could do in November. You can consider that as a part-time job, really, getting ready for it, maybe.
Yes, we are always looking for poll workers. It can vary by precinct. We can have one precinct where maybe we don't need anybody, and others where we need a few. We can use a lot. COVID-19 certainly was one complicating factor this year. Some of the larger counties in the state that had more confirmed cases had some really terrible situations with their poll worker recruitment. We were fortunate in this county. I think we had to re-recruit in 6 or 7 precincts where we lost everybody or almost everybody. Right. And we were able to do that, thankfully, and we were able to open all of our normal polling places except for one temporary relocation. But we are in the process now of assessing, our facilities and our poll workers for November, and there may very well be some places where we need more people, and so they could always contact Voter Services if they're interested. We'd love to talk to them. The
phone number for that at this time is 327-2267?
That's correct, yes.
And you can always find out details online as well at votespa.com?
You can go to votespa.com. Also, my office has its own website as part of the county website. So if someone goes to lyco.org, there's a departments tab at the top where Voter Services is the last one there. And on our page, we always have information about the upcoming election. And then we have a lot of information either for voters, first of all, ways to apply to register or to get an absentee or mail-in ballot. And then we also below that have additional information for candidates because every other year we have local offices on the ballot. Okay. And people often have questions if they want to run for a local office, how do they do that? So we have some preliminary information about that on the Voter Services website as well.
One question I think we have locally is how do we know what to vote for? A lot of people who may be unfamiliar with voting, they may be newly registered. How do they find out the details about each of the persons that are involved on the ballot? Like we go to their website? Is that what is typically done?
Yeah, I mean, we will periodically get calls of that nature, and unfortunately we're not able to give people advice about what candidates' platforms are or anything like that because we're very adamant about remaining nonpartisan, neutral. We need the public to have faith in the work that we're doing to carry out the election. But what we will do if somebody calls our offices is we do often direct them to the parties. We can provide them contact information for either of the party committees. We will advise them to go out and do research in the manner you described. They can go look for candidates. We do have information about the content of the ballot that goes on our website in advance in the form of sample ballots about 30 days out.
Okay.
We put up a notice 90 days out for military and overseas voters that it doesn't look like a ballot, but it is a list that says these are the contests, these are the candidates that will be on there, and we keep it updated. So people could get on there, find those names, and start doing some research, and already then be thinking about what they want to do when they get into the voting booth.
What is a typical percentage in Lycoming County for voter turnout?
It can vary a lot based on what primary or election you are in. I mean, we have a 4-year election cycle where you have two odd number year municipal elections, one of which has most of all of the county offices on the ballot, such as county commissioner, and then another local election year where the only countywide office on the ballot is sheriff, and then you have your midterms and your presidential election year. Mm-hmm. And you can see voter turnout swinging pretty widely. Generally, primaries have lower turnout than November elections. Presidential year turnout is very high. We saw over 70% turnout in 2016. We could easily see that this year, although interestingly, we're not entirely sure if that's going to mean what that's going to mean as far as how busy things will be. Because
Sure.
If we have a lot of people voting absentee ballots or mail-in ballots, we're not sure exactly how busy our in-person polling places might be. So it's because the mail-in voting and everything is so new, it's really hard to project and to plan for what is likely to happen because we don't have any historical record to draw on.
Yeah, everything's new this year. As people register there on October 19th, the deadline to register, will that give you an indication with a few weeks before the election itself to sort of get ready?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, it is typical that you'll see registrations kind of go up in a presidential election year. You'll hit kind of a high water mark on your voter registration rolls. I think we were over 70,000 registered voters going into November 2016. We may do the same thing this year, mm-hmm. although from what I understand, statewide, that the registration increases are lower than what they were in 2016. I would imagine that's been attributed to COVID-19.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you have the registration now, you can do it a couple different ways. You can do it online or even print something out and mail it to you.
Yes, that's right. So Pennsylvania Department of State is the state agency that is responsible for the conduct of elections in the Commonwealth. And they have an online application for people to register to vote and where they can also apply for an absentee or a mail-in ballot as well. So anybody who wants to do it online could go there. They could also go to the voter services website I described earlier, my office's website, where we have links to Department of State, and also people can download PDFs of the paper applications.
Okay.
And for people who have trouble getting around or getting online, they can also call us, and we will mail people any application forms that they need.
And anyone who may be Lycoming County residents who know of folks in the military interested in registering and being a part of that, there's a special website for folks in the military?
That's right. There are special websites. There are special forms as well. The form that anyone who's active duty military, and that includes their spouses and dependents as well. And then also U.S. civilians who are overseas, mm-hmm. They are able to apply for an absentee ballot using what's called a federal postcard application, or an FPCA. And that affords them the ability they can email that application to us, which normally we can't accept emailed or faxed applications. But in the case of that form, we can. Those particular classes of voters are able to receive their balloting materials via email. And the only thing they have to do is hard copy, is they do still have to mail their voted ballot back to us. They do have until the seventh day following the election, however, for us to receive their voted ballot. Whereas for other voters, we need to receive it by 8 p.m. on election day. So generally, if someone is military or a civilian abroad, it's good for them to give us a call so we can go over those differences with them if they're not already familiar with the details.
When people come to the polls in Pennsylvania, required to bring ID with you?
For the most part, no.
Okay.
However, there is a federal law been around a while. It's part of the 1993 NVRA, which most people know is motor voter, but it had other provisions in it. Mm-hmm. Among other things, it does require a voter to bring an acceptable form of identification if they're voting either for the first time ever or for the first time in a new polling place. So if they move across town and they're voting at a new location, they will need to show acceptable ID the first time. However, there are both photo and non-photo forms of ID that would satisfy that requirement. Could be the voter registration card. We send them in the mail. Could be a photo ID like a driver's license, but there are a number of different documents they could use.
And people who have had their polling places changed have been notified through the mail?
Yes. When we change a polling place, we have changed two for November. When we change a polling place, we put a notice on the website, a media release. We direct a letter to every household where the voters have been affected by the change. We do also post the previous polling place for 2 successive elections afterward. So if somebody's used to voting at a location where we've changed and they show up there would be a sign there directing them to the new location. And it's very common that people may end up in an incorrect location anyway, particularly in places like Williamsport or maybe Loyalsock where there's 7 precincts.
Oh.
Someone will see that, there's a polling place sign, and they walk into the building because it's nearby, but they need to vote where they're registered. And the poll workers can call us during the day, and we can look people up and make sure to get them to the right location where they need to be.
That's good. Then you don't have to be being a pinball around all the different precincts. You can just maybe make one mistake only and go to the right place after that.
Exactly. And if someone's not sure where they're supposed to go vote, that's another thing they could always call us to ask about in advance of the election.
And do the address, like the fact that we might have a change of address, we'd have to take care of that before the election, right?
Right. The same registration deadline that I mentioned, the October 19th, that would apply to address changes, name changes, party changes, any application to either register to vote or to make a change to an existing record. We do have people here and there who maybe they buy a new house or they move after that date. It's too late for them to change. And they're permitted to vote one last time at the old address where that isn't correct anymore.
Okay.
They can vote at that old address, and if they turn in the change of address form, we'll process it after the election.
Well, this has been an excellent primer to get everybody ready who may be needing to register or want to do a mail-in or absentee ballot, and all the information available at lyco.org under the department tab where you find voter services, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, Forrest Lehman, it's been wonderful speaking to you today. Thank you for getting us ready for November's election and get us thinking about how we can vote, because it really does make sense to change things at a local level when we want change.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope everybody does either vote by mail or come out and vote in person, because we've got a lot of county employees and poll workers who put the election together, and we don't want to get dressed up for nothing. We want to see all the voters, too.
And if we just want a quick check, am I registered? Am I all set? Do we go to lyco.org for that, or is there another website where we can find information about us in our particular address?
They can go to my website where I have a link to a state website where people can check.
Okay.
I don't know the URL off the top of my head, so they would just want to follow the link from my website, or they can call us and we can look them up.
That sounds good. Forrest K. Lehman, Director of Elections and Registration in Lycoming County, thanks again for joining us today on InTouch.
No problem. You take care.
InTouch is locally produced in our studios at 1685 4 Mile Drive in Williamsport. To get in touch with us regarding questions, comments, or topic ideas, call weekdays between 8 and 5, 570-323-8200. You can also write to us at 1685 4 Mile Drive, Williamsport, PA 17701, attention Freddi Hammer, or email me at fhammer@backyardbroadcasting.com. For archived programs of our InTouch series, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Backyard Broadcasting. Each current weekly program is featured on the Backyard Broadcasting websites. Thanks for listening to InTouch, a production of Backyard Broadcasting.